So here's a couple items I brought home not too long ago from my retail booth, and they didn't sell. Now, not just because it was just this old plain metal box or this old wooden rattan maybe type of box. Actually, it's a set of 3. They're little nesting sets. I thought they were kind of super cute, but they just sat there. And now they have been collecting dust in my inventory. And I thought, you know what? It's really time to get these things ready to sell. I wasn't really to send them to auction. I didn't want to sell them at a yard sale because I saw potential in them still. So it is time to give them a new life, give them some loving, and get these items back into my booth and get them ready to sell. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Yvonne and you have landed on Ginger Chick Rehab, where I love to take secondhand pre-loved items and make them over and share the process with you all. So I'm doing some items today that actually I tried to sell as is and they never sold. So in today's video, it is time to get them made over. How long do you let them sit? What do you do with them? Well, let's find out. Mind you, the dust did not, that much dust anyway, did not come from my retail booth. It's just because they have actually been just sitting around in our inventory. So it's definitely time to give them a bath and get them cleaned up. And if I'm going to be painting them over, I'm going to go ahead and take those little tags. I don't even know if there's, I can't read the wording. I don't even know where they came from, but I think each one of the boxes might have one of those tags on. The metal is a little bit worse for wear. Each one is a different color. It's even kind of a different color in the inside too. But it is nice to have any kind of little cubbies like this, little suitcases, any place that you can have some extra storage if you need it. I'm going to be painting these and giving them a new color. And you can see there's a lot of little wear and tear, just general wear and tear from what happens to metal that's painted. So I'm just taking a 220 sandpaper and just scuff sanding it a little bit, just giving something for my new paint to grab onto. Have the whole outer sanded. I'm just going to go ahead and clean it once again. I've created some sanding dust. I want to make sure that surface is nice and clean. So I'm going to go ahead and paint these up with some Rust-Oleum enamel paint. I love this stuff because in 15 minutes it's dry to the touch. So I am using the white paint in the matte finish. That means it doesn't have any gloss to it. Nice thing about it being dry to the touch and within 15 minutes is usually within an hour I can flip it over and I can do the other side. I still let it dry overnight or for a couple hours before proceeding on working on it, but at least I can get the whole item painted. I just like to make sure, just because it's 15 minutes dry to the touch doesn't mean it's ready to be worked on necessarily. So not that the white wasn't a huge change on these, I'm going to be adding some decoupage paper. So I'm going to be using some Roycycled paper. I love this floral print and the ticking stripe. These three even though two look the same, which is not, they all coordinate together. And unfortunately on these metal suitcases, the metal boxes, the hardware was not able to be removed. So I have to work around the hardware. Well, so be it. So I'm going to do, I thought I was going to have to do the ticking stripe on the largest one because I actually have 2 sheets of this just in case I ran out. But once I got it cut down, I realized that, oh, 1 sheet is going to be enough to cover this whole box. You know, you always want to play it safe kind of thing. Able to take the 1 sheet, cut it into 4 quarters, which is enough, plenty tall enough for each one of the boxes. So this is awesome. So now I'm going to make a slit where the handle is, cut a little bit of an opening, and then pray for the best. No, I think that I have enough to play with that I can get that centered. Oh, this is going to be so pretty. And I didn't say it was going to be easy to work with, but I said it was going to be pretty. So, yeah, so I just made a slit for where the handle was, and then we'll use some Mod Podge to start adhering it on. So now I need to make some relief cuts in it right where the handle hardware is, just very gingerly. If it rips, so I want this to look aged and distressed anyway. I'm not going to worry about like having this smooth decoupage paper because I like wrinkles because I think it gives character and gives age to a piece. But yes, just have to work a little bit gingerly. I didn't wet the paper because I knew I was going to have to pull on it. I just wet the Mod Podge just so it was a little bit more workable. So now I have to do some relief areas, cutting around where the latches are at the top. I didn't say it was going to be easy. It was just my vision, like, okay, so now how do I achieve this to its best of its ability? So, you know, sometimes, you know, we have these ideas, but then we're like, okay, now that I'm working on it, okay, anyway, so yeah, it seems to be working out just fine. So now once I get it cut around everything, I can spritz it a little bit with water. I can smooth it down as much as possible. I'm trying to make sure that the gap where I cut for the handle, those pieces match up. So I'm trying not to pull too awful hard. And then I'll put my hand in a Ziploc and then try to work out any air bubbles, any major wrinkles, anything like that. And then I'll just go slowly. I'll just make sure that I have enough relief cuts. I got to be careful because I wet the paper. So the paper, when it's wet, lots of times is just going to tear. But I needed to work around that hardware. And lucky me, I'm going to get to repeat that process 2 more times on both of the other little suitcase boxes. Oop, it looks like I missed spraying a little bit of the handle, but I'll deal with that afterwards. That would just be covering up the box after it's all done and just doing a little bit more spritz. You'll have that sometimes. You think you hit all the areas and sometimes you just don't. So I'm just trying to mark where I need to make my cuts and then maybe making my relief cuts. You know, you learn as you're doing a project. So, you know, you're doing one and then you think the next time I'm going to do this. So yes, so this time I'm going to go ahead and make my long slit, but then I'm also going to make my relief cuts so I don't have to do it while it is wet. Now there's no way I can match this pattern up. It's just not happening. And I'm not going to stress about that. I'm just going to make it part of the design. So we're just going to go ahead and work with the pieces as is. And as I'm working around the back and making that turn, I need another little relief cut because I can put the paper all the way up into the front, but I have to work around the hinges in the back. Got the ticking stripe to line up pretty darn good, but of course the rose pattern, flowers, peonies, I'm not sure what type they are. Tell me down in the comments below if you know. Of course do not match up, but here is my fix. I have a little trio anyway, so I'm just going to take one of the ticking stripes itself and glue it, Mod Podge it right on top of that seam so that you don't even notice that they don't completely match up. And the seams really are random, especially from the small box to the large little box. So does it matter? No, it's just part of the design. It's just random. Sometimes it's that perfectly imperfect. But I do think it's better than seeing a seam butted up against each other that doesn't completely match. And now that my paper is dry, I'm just going to take some 220 sandpaper around the edges and kind of saw it off, sand it off. So I know that the sandpaper is probably going to take some of the metal, going to take it down to the original color, going to take some of that spray paint off. It's okay because I didn't want these to look like, oh, these are pristine brand new items. I want them to look old and aged. So worn off paint will be perfect for that. So I'm not going to stress myself out worrying about touching any of that up. It'll just be what it is. then around my hardware, I'll just take the X-Acto knife and take all those little pieces off. No, it is not a tight butt-up fit. There might be a little bit of space and gap that you can see the tin underneath, but yet again, it's okay. I didn't intend for this to be this pristine job. I mean, decoupage job to begin with, but just to give it a change up. Then the backside, I can't really like sand that off, and I can't really push it underneath. All it was doing was ripping and pulling up the paper, so we'll just take the X-Acto knife and cut it off. And of course, everything did not get adhered down. So I'll just go back through, find any of those areas, and take a little bit of the Mod Podge and make sure that it's adhered down. After a little bit of patience, I got it all on, and I think it is gorgeous. So my next step that I'm going to do is I want to add some age. I don't ever really want like this perfectly flat decoupage paper, because I like when I go back and antique it, which I'm using the Aging Wax by Fusion to give it some age. I love when the aging wax, the darker wax, will hit those crinkled, wrinkled areas, and especially where the paper ripped around the hardware. I just love that little bit of age that it gives. And since I used a matte spray paint, it'll actually even color the spray paint, the white spray paint, a little bit. Now, if I would have used a glossy, it would probably just have rubbed off. But since I used a matte, it will change the color just slightly. And then I am using a natural. I'm using the Homestead's Clear Wax to wipe off. I want you to be able to see those distressed areas, and I don't want it to color the paper too awful much, which since I Mod Podged it and it's decoupage paper, the Mod Podge kind of just works its way through the paper itself. So a little bit of the aging wax with a little bit of the natural clear wax, and see how it just slightly will color that spray paint. But the aging wax will stick in all the little detail areas like the fold over and just really give it that age. I do think these are kind of a huge transformation, but to seal everything all in, I'm going in with some weather defense, just a clear coat, not only over the decoupage paper itself, but on the paint itself. So really putting that protective coat on this piece, especially since they're metal and it painted it and it's a stocking box. Hopefully that'll help the paint from like chipping off or rubbing off. If not, you know, just dress in. Have these little nesting stacking boxes. They're a wood, actually. Like, I don't know what type of wood. But they have these fakey leaves. Well, they're not even fakey leaves. They're some kind of a really thin, I don't know what. what. But half of them are really, if you touch them, they're very brittle and they break and they're going to be coming off anyway. So I'm just going to not mess with them, trying to glue them all back down, and I'm just going to go ahead and take them off. Like, they really just, like with my scraping tool, come right off. So of course, there's always that little bit of residue that's left behind that doesn't want to come off, but as you see, they weren't really adhered anymore anyway. After I get them all removed, there's just a little bit of adhesive that doesn't want to come off, but I'm going to go ahead, it's kind of on a shiny surface, so I'm going to go ahead and take some 220 sandpaper and try to make sure where the leaves were that everything's sanded down, get as much of the glue as I can off, and just give it a nice scuff sand. That I've sanded as much as I possibly could, I'm going to go ahead and get it washed off just using some Dawn dish soap and some hot water. Now, so my paint does not take unevenly and you don't see those leaf patterns underneath. I'm going to go ahead and do a couple coats of shellac, which is a porosity filler and to help any of the bleed through from happening from this type of stain. I'm going to let it dry like 5-10 minutes in between before doing the second coat. Luckily, shellac dries pretty fast. I do want to make sure that I got the front area, which since they lay on their side and they're stacking nesting boxes like that, I want to make sure that I have that sealed in also. So now to paint these, I'm going to go ahead and use the Fusions paint, primer, and top coat all-in-one paint, especially since this is that color. So I love this paint in the parchment color, so it's a little bit of an off-white, but a nice, I'm kind of going for a cottage core look with both of these sets, and I think this color will be perfect for it. Though it's going to take multiple coats because it's a light color and this is a dark box, but that's okay. I want to make sure that I'm getting thin coats on. I love these brushes that I get from the Painted Heirloom, and I'm always bad about what like the brand name is. But I always link it down below. I love them because they don't hold a ton of paint, so I'm not really having to ever deal with drips and runs. And of course, I forgot to put my Lazy Susan on underneath my board so I could spin my object around and make it a little bit easier to paint. So now I'm on to my second coat, and because of this wood, it really dries kind of fast because it's absorbing into the wood. So I'm just going on. It'll probably take maybe 3 coats and then a 4th coat, checking out here and there. But if I ever feel like my paint is a little grabby, like I don't want to really see too many brush strokes, and I think the grabbing, you know, it is what it is, but a little bit of a misting bottle definitely helps with that. So if your paint is drying too fast, like right now I'm in my workshop and I have like heaters going to keep it nice and warm and a fan going to circulate the air. So sometimes my paint dries, unfortunately, faster than I want it to. Well, you don't want it drying as soon as you put it on. And then of course I've got to do my bottom part yet, but I try to get as much of the surface area as I can and then go in. And I'm really trying to work the paint with a fan brush. Now these fan brushes I get asked about. Viewer D sent them to me. She bought them off of Temu. I have not ordered from that app yet at all yet. I don't know. Just haven't taken the time to research, and because they have a lot of products on there. So a little bit overwhelmed for me, and I just don't have the time. But I appreciate that D sent me these. Now Amazon does have something similar, but the handles are really long. So I do love fan brushes, and it's nice that these handles are smaller, and I appreciate Dee sending these to me. Now that I have these all painted up, and I think that paint job just completely changed them, taking the leaves off, updated them a little bit, and now I'm going to use some more of that Aging Wax by Fusion, which is quickly becoming one of my favorites. Well, any of the browns and blacks waxes, along with naturals, I guess a lot of them are my favorites. But I love that I can just put this on in like the detailed areas it really goes into. So when I take the natural wax to wipe it and blend it all off, the dark is still sticking into the detailed areas. And so it's not really necessarily changing the white very much, but it just is giving it some age and popping out the details. I do want to do a little bit more detail on these. They are pretty just as they are as white, but I want a little bit of embellishment. So I'm going to be using IOD's letterpress. I love, if you don't have any of the IOD stamps and you are one who would like some letters, this is a great stamp set for you. And I also get those at the Painted Heirloom too. So I'm just going to do some random numberings. I'm just going to grab all the numbers off, and then whatever I pick up is what it's going to be. So I just wanted to make sure that my box was turned right, that my latch is going the right way, because I assume most people would probably have these sitting on their side stacked in 3. I assume anyway. So now I'm just going to use a piece of packing tape to grab the numbers to use as a stamping mound, something to hold all the letters together. That the packing tape hack works wonderful because you can grab them, you can adhere it to it, you can fold over the sides of the packing tape to make little handles. You can still have just a little bit of the sticky that you can attach it to the item that you want to transfer your letters or numbers onto. It works out perfectly. So now I'm just going to be using some of the IOD's black ink. It's a permanent ink to ink these up and to stamp them on the little box. And I thought, okay, so I had the 435. I'm just going to do 436, then 437. It sounded good at the time when I was grabbing the letters, or grabbing the numbers, that is. So then I kind of knew that I wanted to hang something like a key or something like that. So when I went into my key stash, yes, I have a key stash. Do y'all have a key stash? The old skeleton type keys. I had some of these other little random punk art, punk art. I think they were Tim Holtz like little tags. Though I wish I would have had those first before I put my numbers on, because then I could have matched my numbers to the tags. But I'm not painting over that ink. I'm not going to make a mess of my finish. So it's just going to be what it's going to be. So I'm just going to use some wire through the tag itself, because my black velvet ribbon that I'm going to tie the key on won't fit through that hole. But I think these will just be nice little embellishments. No, the key doesn't go to anything on the box itself. It's just a detail. It's just there. It's funny, I'm not one that usually paints over hardware, and I don't know why the white painted hardware was bothering me. So I started adding some of the rub and buffs, the Finnabar waxes, just trying to get it kind of to match the key color a little bit. I probably should have left good enough alone, but you know how we crafters are. We just kind of go for it when we have that moment. We think, oh, we need to do something, that we just do it. And I think it turned out okay at the end. So thank you so much for watching today's video. Yes, these just never sold as is. So I thought like a 3 little trio books, you know, a 3 little trio suitcase stack is how cute is that? And why not to kind of give them a cottage core type of look. The decoupage paper, time consuming, but oh, they look so pretty. Extra storage. And I know, taking the leaves off of those, you're not going to see the leaves anyway because they're a stack, other than maybe on the top one. So they didn't really make any sense, and they were all half fallen off anyway. So thanks again for watching today's video. Let me know if I've inspired you in any way to look at secondhand finds in a new way. And as always, if you're part of our YouTube family, thank you so much. And if you're new and you're checking out this channel for the first time and you liked what you saw, please consider hitting that subscription button along with the notification bell so you know we uploaded a video. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up so YouTube knows that you like this kind of content. And we will see you next time, guys, and you can see what we're up to. Bye!